What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is Battlefield 3. And for today's commentary, I'm going to be talking about rebalancing Battlefield 3. Now, with that said, Battlefield 3 is a fairly decently balanced game. There are some issues and some things that I think could be improved, which is going to be what I'm going to be talking about. These are completely hypothetical solutions to the issues, and these are my opinions on this. You know, feel free to disagree with me. However, if you're going to disagree, at least disagree and have some logic behind it rather than say, "Oh, you're wrong," because that doesn't really do anything. Now, let me first say, my goal with these numbers, or something, would not be to nerf a gun into oblivion and never see it again, because really that just kind of defeats the whole purpose of rebalancing something. That's not really fixing anything. That's just trading one issue for another issue. So that's not my goal here. I don't rage about too terribly many weapons in this game in terms of cheapness, so keep that in mind. Anyways, let's start off with the Assault class. Now, the M16 is the best gun in the game. It has been the best gun in the game for a very long while. It's not because it's completely overpowered in every regard. It's just really good in every regard. Personally, I think one of the biggest things that makes that gun so advantageous is the reload speed, which is pretty much significantly quicker than pretty much any other assault rifle rather than the M416. It's a big advantage to have, coupled with the performance that gun gives you. What I would do is I would change the reload speed. I would bump it back to about 2.2 seconds. It's at like 1.8 right now. This is something that DICE has done in the past with the 44, where they actually decreased the reload time on that gun to make it more potent. So it's something that they could do for sure, and something I would really like them to explore doing more often, because really it's a great way to balance a gun without destroying a gun, because that's not the goal. Maybe add a little bit more vertical recoil, but I honestly think the reload speed would take care of a large portion of the balance issues, with the M16 being basically the god gun in the game right now. Same thing for the 416. I would increase its reload time just a little bit, not too terribly much. The 416 is a really average overall gun, which I think is reflected with the reload time, where that's really kind of the thing that in this hypothetical Battlefield 3 it would excel in, versus some of the other assault rifles. Now, the AUG, I know a lot of people are raging about, claiming it's overpowered. Honestly, I think it's a little bit average. Actually, it's completely average, but I would add just a touch more vertical recoil. Again, not really destroying the gun or anything, just make it a little bit more, you have to be more aware of how you're actually firing the gun and where you're putting your shots and everything, rather than right now where you can just hold down the trigger on that gun. But again, you can do that on so many other assault rifles in this game as well. The AEK, again, a little bit more vertical recoil, not too terribly much. The AEK is really good, it's really solid, but again, I don't think it's too terribly far out of line without, really, if you had to do anything else, you'd pretty much destroy that gun completely. The F2000 is a gun that was really good, and then it kind of got nerfed into oblivion, and I think it kind of needs to be brought back a little bit. Now, I'd decrease the first shot recoil, which would make it a little bit more easier to manage. That gun has a really high first shot recoil. I think it's at like 3 or 3.5, which is one of the highest in the game. If memory serves me right. So I'd like to see them drop that back a little bit, because really, it's kind of crazy. But anyways, now the FAMAS, I know a lot of people are kind of touchy on the FAMAS. What I personally would do, if it is up to me, is my call. I'd restore the FAMAS to how it was originally in Battlefield 3 when it first came out. However, I would keep the 25-round magazine that they installed in the previous patch, because obviously the FAMAS has a huge reload time, especially with that rate of fire. You're going to be burning through ammo real quickly. You're going to really have to rely on that reload time and everything. So, that 5-round fewer magazine is definitely going to be highlighting that reload speed and bring it back more into line, because really those 5 rounds are a huge difference. But the M320 against light transports such as the Vodnik and the Humvee, which I guess they're heavy transports in this game, I would have them destroy them in 2 shots rather than right now where it's 3 or 4 depending on where you hit them. But I'll go more into those vehicles a little bit later in this commentary if I have time. Engineer class. The A91, again, reduced first shot recoil. This gun's really good overall. It's just kind of lackluster against some of the other companions added in Battlefield 3. G36C, a little bit less vertical recoil. That gun is pretty much garbage anymore, to be perfectly honest. Same thing with the G53. The M4, again, increased the reload time, similar to the M16. Nothing too terribly special. The QBZ95 is kind of enigmatic because there's really not too terribly much that can be done. I would lower the horizontal recoil. That said, I don't think it makes too much of a difference because that gun is easily controlled. There's really not too much that can be done with that type of weapon in this game, except for maybe bringing back the longer fall-off damage that the AK-74U had originally. But anyways, the MTAR-21, a little bit more first-shot recoil, making it a little bit more harder to use at range. Otherwise, that gun's pretty much spot on, where I'd say, because really it's a beast in close, but outside of close range, it's pretty much garbage, to be perfectly honest. The ACR unchanged, SCAR H unchanged. The SG553, a little bit lower horizontal recoil, because honestly that gun just doesn't stack up well against some of the other guns in this game right now. The EOD bot, I would double the health to make it more viable as an option. Right now, basically if you get shot once in that thing, it's destroyed, which basically means it's impractical to use for repairing vehicles, which kind of defeats the entire purpose. Plus the fact that if you wanted to do a remote arm with a EOD bot in Rush, it's just not going to happen most often. It's not going to happen. In terms of support, the MG36, a little bit lower recoil, pretty much similar to the M27 IAR. Again, the reload speed will kind of balance out the larger magazine that the MG36 has. QBB 95, the 50-round magazine, Chinese gun in the support class. A little bit less vertical recoil, but otherwise not really too terribly much to be done on that. And the L86, a little bit more first shot recoil, not too terribly much, just a smidge. And I'd make the smoke mortars a completely separate mortar in the menu, so that way everybody's like, smoke mortar, I can be helpful. Yay! Anyways, recon, because I have a lot of recon changes that I would like to see. Bolt action is completely unaffected. They are fine as is. DICE has really done a great job with the bolt action rifles here in Battlefield 3. They finally got them where I want them to be. Semi-autos, I believe they should not one-shot headshot. That goes for any of the semi-autos. It doesn't matter, SKS, 417, M39, no more one-shot headshot. That's just my personal opinion, and I have abused the one-shot headshot plenty. Now, the 417 is a gun that is enigmatic, to say the least, because on the stats it's like, oh yeah, it's not overpowered or anything, but when you actually use it in the gameplay, you can do some pretty silly things with it, to be perfectly honest. Which brings me to this change, which is largely one of the biggest changes that could be done to that gun, and I'd like to see them actually reduce the hipfire accuracy to match that of the other heavy damage semi-auto snipers. Maybe even a little bit further than that, similar to one of the medium machine guns, such as the M240 or the PKP. Because once you add in that laser sight on the M417, that gun just becomes ridiculous. Otherwise, it's really not that great. It's just once you have that hipfire ability, it destroys everything, to be perfectly honest. But anyways, I would make the tugs throwable, because honestly, right now, recon, frontline recon, that thing will get you killed more often than not, because it's so glitchy. I've had times when it's on perfectly flat ground and it still won't place for whatever reason, just because it just doesn't feel like it, I guess. I don't know. But the soft lam, I would give it a different hitbox completely, even if it has to basically be just a completely square box around the soft lam. I don't care what it is. Right now, it's just the buggiest hitbox in the game, and it's just really annoying, especially to chopper pilots. But anyways, pistols, I do have some changes for the pistols. I'd like to see the 93R basically brought back to where it was in October. That is my favorite gun, and I'm saying that that gun should be nerfed, so you guys should consider that when I'm saying these things in this video. But anyways, bring that back. Semi-auto pistols should have a higher rate of fire cap, probably around 650 RPM, because right now they are just complete trash in this game and are not worth using at all. They truthfully aren't. Anyways, spread attachments removed, or spread increases removed from attachments, except for the foregrip, but the penalty on the foregrip halved, basically. So it's still not super mega accurate attachments, but at the same time, it does actually do something. I would also reduce the intensity on the tactical flashlights, as well as the scope glint, probably by about half. Canister shell on vehicles should no longer basically put up a wall of lead. They are separate shells. They should have to be reloaded into the cannon as such. 3D spotting removed from tanks. Basically, when I say that, the infantry can still 3D spot, the tank crew can 3D spot, but they're on their own separate wavelengths. There are several times, obviously, where as a tank crew, you'll shoot a guy and, you know, you'll get shot by an RPG from a little tiny slit, not have a clue where he is, but then someone will spot him and you can instantly turn around and be like, "Oh hey, I know you're right there!" and shoot a cannon at him, even though you had no clue where he was. He totally outplayed you, but because that guy got 3D spotted, you're basically, as the engineer there on the other end, completely screwed. I'd also like to see the turret turning speed reduced in the tanks and IFVs. That includes both the main turrets as well as the second position gunner seat. Canister shells should no longer be able to shoot out pilots from vehicles. This is a change that should have happened in light of the buff that the main cannon got to being able to take out helicopters in one shot. I think that would be a fair trade-off, to be perfectly honest. And really, that's just about it. That's a whole laundry list of changes. That is a lot of changes. But really, there's not too terribly many huge changes. I think that would honestly make Battlefield 3 a much more enjoyable game. So let me know what you guys think. So, bye.
Got your first aid here.